at my mouth! Welcome to another entry from the Omni-Bestiary. Today's entry takes us to the distant world of Dreamland, a sprawling ecological wonderland home to a marvelous variety of life, including, but certainly not limited to, flaming frogs, rotund cryomancy dragons, this thing, a martial arts yeti, and these harmless cat heads. Oh, good lord! Whilst the majority of these creatures prefer to live a calm, carefree life, one should not mistake this as an invitation to meddle in their affairs, as they're fully capable of retaliation. Today's specimen is no exception, with this fearsome denizen of the deeps, Acro. Acro, of all the fantastical creatures recovering the literal killer whale? You know these things eat sharks, right? Oh, sorry, Acro is a cetacean commonly found around the aquatic caverns of planet Popstar. It was also seen on planet Aquastar, though whether this is the same Acro or a member of a multi-planetary species called Acro is up for question. As you might have overheard me earlier, this creature bears an almost exact resemblance to the Earth species known as the killer whale, or the orca. Oh, wait a minute. Acro? Orca! Oh, I get it. Anyway, Acro shares many of the same features as orcas, such as a set of pelvic, dorsal, and tail fins for underwater mobility, as well as rows of sharp-pointed teeth to tear through prey. Acro also has a similar skin pattern as the orca, including the famous eye spot. That's where the similarities end, however, for Acro has a shorter and more rotund body than an orca. While this less streamlined shape would theoretically interfere with its swimming speed, it would aid in keeping its balance for its more peculiar ability to walk on land with its tail fins. I hypothesize that Acro's tail contains a type of hydrostatic skeleton, a structure that permits movement of body parts through changes in fluid pressure. Acro also does notably appear to lack a blowhole, which allows cetaceans to more easily breathe on the water's surface through a nasal passage positioned on the top of their head. It can be presumed that Acro's evolutionary history did not facilitate the development of such a structure, or that Acro spent a lot more time on dry land than we would have expected. Oh great, a land orca, just what I wanted. Should you make the mistake of aggravating Acro, be prepared to get pummeled around. Acro likes to subdue its prey by ramming into them with a force sufficient enough to trigger rock falls, and also tends to throw in some acrobatic maneuvers to try to throw them off. Acro? Acrobat. Should that fail, Acro will also attempt to expectorate the contents of its deceptively large stomach, which includes the digestive bones of its prey, gordos, derelict ship wreckage, naval armaments, and... WHAT ARE YOU DOING?! So I assume by now that I noticed that Acro has a lighter skin tone on its upper body compared to that of the typical orca. In addition, its lower body has a wider patch of white skin, making it more akin to that of a shark. The overall skin pattern of Acro, orcas, and sharks can be explained by a concept called countershading, a form of camouflage where animals possess a darker and lighter coloration on different sides of their body. This allows predators to hide from unsuspecting prey depending on where they're oriented. In this example, prey gazing upward would have trouble observing the white belly of the predator when it blends in with the light of the sun. Prey swimming from above, meanwhile, will have difficulty spotting the darker skin of the predator among the darkness of the ocean depths. In fact, ocean predators are not the only creatures that are known to employ this tactic. Animals like this hawk also have a white stomach and underwings to mask itself from those gazing upward. Regardless, this should prove to be a good reminder that when surviving in the wild, to keep a close eye on your surroundings, from every angle. As for Acro's lighter skin tone, I hypothesized that Acro species spend more of their time around shallow bodies of water or the ocean floor, and thus promote the evolution of a skin color that better matched the sandy bottom rather than the ocean deep. So anyway, besides some of those more unusual deviances, Acro is more or less exactly the same as a killer whale, which makes it especially bizarre when you put it side by side with the more vivid creatures that populate Dreamland. Of course, it is most likely a simple case of coincidental interplanetary convergent evolution, like the one that explains why we see so many humans showing up on planets completely separate from Earth. However, I want to have some fun here and present an alternative explanation. One where I have to dip my toes into one of the oldest conspiracies surrounding this world. The infamous Shiver star theory. For those unfamiliar, there is another planet adjacent to Popstar known as Shiver Star, a realm whose eternal winter conceals a massive complex of underground cities and factories. Some circles believe the existence of this machinery is no mystery, for Shiver Star is actually a future Earth. This is supported by this most glaring piece of evidence, the way that Shiver Star's land masses appear to be a perfect match for Earth's, in a scenario where the tectonic plates remain stationary, apparently. It is also thought that the human race decided to abandon this Earth and spread to other regions of the galaxy, which is implied by the presence of one inhabitant Popstar, Adeline the Artist, who appears to be a full-on human. So, all this seems pretty straightforward, right? Planet starts turning into a snow globe, so the human race endures by migrating to other planets. But I'd like to propose the following. What if humans were not the only species that have escaped Earth? What if humanity, in their quest to preserve the legacy of their former homeworld, decided to bring along a couple other creatures with them? After all, it would be perfectly reasonable for them to be accompanied by their beloved pets in this kind of scenario. Though bringing a full-size orca on a spaceship, I admit, might be a bit convoluted. However, the more feasible option here would be to keep genetic samples of the orca on standby for the creation of clones in new lands. Humans have been making preparations to preserve Earth's biology for these kinds of doomsday scenarios. The most prominent example being, perhaps, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault in Norway, a facility that keeps over 1 million seed samples in reserve for emergency agricultural purposes. And, yes, although the concept of sending genetic samples to other planets to produce the corresponding animal is still vastly in the realm of science fiction, there is a solid foundation to get to this point, thanks to the existence of DNA libraries, collections of DNA fragments of various species that replicate for scientific research. If a creature's genome has been sufficiently cataloged, and if they have the means to properly manipulate or splice it, it is theoretically possible that these samples can be used to germinate clones, once the science and technology has been refined, of course. As for how this relates to Acro, I believe that human visitors to Dreamland decided to clone an orca and release it in the local waters, which is great for the orca species, but not so much for local sharks. Huh. I was so scared of being eaten by an orca this whole time that I failed to identify the real threat here.